In this demonstration, we're going to go over an accounts payable lifecycle. So the business requirements in this use case are customer X receives 5,000 invoices a month and the finance team review them manually to retrieve the invoice header information and identify the approver. The invoices are then emailed to the approver so they can review them, make comments, and then email their approval back. Once the approval has been received, the data is then entered manually into the accounts payable system for payment. This is not only time consuming, but management have no visibility of the process and the current status is hard to determine. So the life cycle in this DocuNECT demo has been implemented to monitor three different capture sources. One by email, a centralized email account. So there'll be invoices at customerx.com where the attachments will be stripped and sent into the lifecycle via fax, which are then sent to a folder structure which is monitored and brought in, or that can be done by email too, or by regular mail, which is scanned by the DocuNECT desktop capture. The lifecycle will periodically import the invoice documents from these three different channels and use business rules to automatically extract the invoice number, the invoice date, and the invoice amount. The vendor will be identified and the vendor code and invoice approver assigned from a database lookup. Once the invoices have been verified, then each invoice from the batch will be sent to the individual approvers. Once the invoices have been approved, they will be finally reviewed by the finance group before being sent to accounts payable. And there's a demonstration of a dashboard on how to keep track of the process. Here we are at the login screen. I've got a custom login screen. Here we can blend this into your corporate look and feel. And I'm going to log in to this system as Marlene Roberts, who acts as part of the finance group for our customer X here. And I'm going to type in the username and password, but we do have direct integration with Active Directory. But this is a demo system, so I've just got my set of test users. Now, because Marlene's in the finance group, the first thing that she sees is the invoice summary dashboard. Now, this is developed completely around your key performance indicators and how your organization likes to see the data and the insight into the process itself. Customer X likes to know who their high volume vendors are. So this is an ongoing list of the top 5 high volume vendors for the last fiscal year. Something that's quite prevalent with accounts payable systems is invoice approvers not approving their invoices. They're busy, they're doing other things. So this gives us a list of all the users that have over 40 items in their inbox. Just a prompt for the system can do this automatically, but just a prompt for maybe someone from finance group to reach out and prod them onto approving their invoices, and a count of invoices by process stage. So this is 56 in data extraction, in verification, in the batch-based processing, in approval, ready to be paid, invoices rejected. So these two last boxes give you a great insight into the process, how it's working, are there any bottlenecks? And down here we have invoice paid and not paid by the last fiscal year by month. As you can see, the green ones are paid, the black is not paid, and that should filter down to the net terms. Looks like we've got some stragglers there that are probably being reviewed and approved by the finance group. So let's go to the vendor setup, which is really the first thing that we need to do to fuel this process. This is not something that you need to do continuously. We do it once on bulk as part of the initial system implementation. But you can also just do this as an ongoing basis as vendors come and go. So let's go to the vendor setup itself. This is just a list of vendors. You can import this from your accounts payable system. In our demo process here for customer X, we are going to identify the vendor name from the invoice, then associate the code automatically. And we're doing that using identifiable tags. So for example, if an invoice contains this tag here, then because it's a postal code, it's probably H-ware. If it contains the word pest, pest removal, and so forth. And then it assigns the invoice approver. As approvers come and go, you can change them within the system, within this table here. It's completely something that someone in the finance group can administer on an ongoing basis. Some of your high volume invoices, you don't need to do an identifiable tag because you can set up specific templates for your high volume invoices and then use this method for all the sort of vendors that you receive 1 or 2 invoices a year, something like that, so you can really keep the invoice processing smooth. As I say, we can export this data, we can import it from other systems, or we can write a process to sync this table with another database if you have that internally. Now, I'm getting quite advanced here, but we do let people use this. DocuNECT uses what's called, or can use, depending on how you implement the lifecycle, something called a tag dictionary. This is basically, for example, if you're searching for invoice number, you can't really use positional XY coordinates because invoices are described as a semi-structured document. It's got roughly the same data from vendor to vendor, but it's all in different places because the vendor gets to decide how they structure and format their invoices. So you can't go to XY and expect the invoice number to always be there. So we use tags. Now, the reason why you need a tag dictionary is because the vendor can format their own invoices, then the label for an invoice number may change per vendor. It may be invoice £, invoice number, capitalized invoice £. So there's all sorts of ways of you doing that. This is just a simple dictionary. And you can also, for dates, not only search for the tag, but you can also put a regular expression dictionary there as well. Sometimes it's good for someone in finance group to be trained on tags that are being missed. Pretty easy to enter in. You just edit this and enter the tag. Or the other thing you can do is just make sure that someone in IT knows and can administer the table. But just for the sake of the demo, we just wanted to bring out how the tag dictionary worked, because it's a pretty easy thing to administer once you've got the process there. All you're doing is updating the tag dictionary itself. Okay, so let's talk about how we verify some of the information. In our demo description, we went over that there are 2 stages to this. There's the verification process and then there's the workflow process. The verification is really akin to a traditional capture, where you've got batches of documents where you need to verify the information before it can continue. And then the workflow spins the individual invoices out to the relevant approver for approval. In this scenario, in Customer X's world, the finance group actually do the verification process. If I click on my Work Center tab, go straight to batches. Now, in a real production system, you'll have lists and lists of batches at various states. The system is designed to keep track of everything that you do. So if you want to verify a batch of 10 documents, but you only get to the 9th, then get called away, the system times out, then it will remember that you've only verified 9, you come back in and you can verify the 10th before it goes on to the next stage in the process. So you've got this kind of gatekeeper processing to make sure nothing goes to the next stage before it's completed the one before. Demo system, so I've only got 1 batch in there. It says this is invoices from a file share, and I'm going to verify the documents. If I expand the processing here, all the tabs, you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, first thing is you've got these little blue information here. This is to say that the business rules have been run. The documents in this case has been OCR'd because it is an image document. And then the tag dictionary has been applied on it. It's found the information. If I click on invoice number, you see there is a green box around. Now, I'm forcing a verification stage in this life cycle because I want to show you the demonstration, how it works and the processing. In reality, you wouldn't force the verification stage. You would only show people in the finance group invoices where the system was not confident that it extracted the information. If, for example, and I happen to know that the lifecycle threshold for verification is 80%, if any one of these items fall below 80%, then there'll be a red box around here, and then it will stop and prompt the user to verify the data that's been extracted, or they can just overwrite it. If there's a batch, if in that mode where you're not forcing verification and you've got 10 invoices in a batch and they're all perfect, then it will just go on to the next stage automatically. So you get a choice of how you want to do it. Again, I've got this stage in the demo because I just want to bring it out and show you. If I click on invoice date, it extracted it there. It found the tag, and if I click on here, if you remember, hware had this tag, so it found that on the document, therefore it assigned hware as the vendor name, then assigned the vendor code, and put B. Bolton as the approver, and that's the status and the category, and this is when the invoice was received. I can optionally annotate the document here if I need to, but that looks good. I'll just go to the next document, and the same thing. If I click on the invoice number, there it is in a completely different place. Tag dictionary is working, invoice date, and then approve of B. Bolton. I'll go to the next one. And this one is, there's the invoice number, the invoice date, I've got the amount as well. And then freshwater spring, that's Fred Smith this time, so it's going to a different approver. So that's the batch verified. As I said, in reality, you get lots of batches here. It's running every, say, 15, 20 minutes, and whatever number of invoices it finds from whatever capture source, it will create a batch with those invoices for someone in the finance group to just go and verify the information. Okay, now the finance group have done their job of verifying the invoices. All the invoices have gone to the invoice approvers, and if you remember, they were automatically assigned from the actual vendor table that we set up. So I'm going to log in as B. Bolton here, and you'll see that I have 2 invoices in my approval inbox. It's just a simple interface. You can set this up so I get an email notification when something comes in, and you notice that one is bold and one is unbolded. It works like email. So this is something that Bruce has been working on before, so it's obviously taken the bolded information away. So I'm going to go into here and look at my invoice. You can see when it was started. I can look at the actual document itself. That looks great to me. So I am going to just simply approve this. If I actually go to the indexes, you'll see that Bruce has different security permissions. He can't make changes to the data. So that's why everything is in a read-only. So I'm going to go and approve that invoice, and it's going to go back to the finance group for final review. Now this final invoice I'm going to have a look at here. I'm going to view the document. I'm not too happy about this amount, so I'm going to annotate this invoice, and I'm going to say, please check this amount. I'm going to save the annotation, save the annotations, and then close this, and I'm going to reject it. And that's going to go back to the finance group as a rejected item. So we've done the invoice approval. Another invoice went to Fred Smith, but I'm not going to log in as him. I'm just going to go back to Marlene Roberts' user, who is part of the finance group, and let's see what's going on in her inbox. So if I go to her work center into tasks, now the finance group have role tasks. We don't know from a process perspective who in the finance group is going to work on it. So this is almost like, imagine a conference room table with a box of invoices and everybody just grabbing one when they're ready. So that's what's going on here. If I click on the rejected one, you'll notice rather than going into the task, it's saying, do I want to assign it as a personal task or do that and process it now? I want to process it now. This takes it out of the role box so no one else grabs it and process it. Okay. So here we are. I can go and look at the invoice, and I've noticed that Bruce has made a comment here. So I'm just going to make a note to myself, this, and call the vendor and I'm not going to do that now. So I'm just going to put a note for myself, and I'm going to come back to the role tasks. Now that is, if I go back to my task, that is where that is. I've taken it out of role tasks and put it back into my tasks. Okay, so this is the invoice rejected in my inbox. I'm going to go back to role tasks. here's the invoice for final review. So it looks like Bruce actually approved this. If I click into it, and I want to assign it to me and process it now, I can see that Bruce approved it when he approved it. And then, okay, everything looks good here. I can look at the invoice, make sure there's no annotations, and I can just go ahead and approve that for payment. Now, I can actually, we can add or enhance the workflow to integrate with an accounts payable system to either create a batch XML file for upload or pass the data over for payment via a REST API or something like that. But right now, that's the end of the workflow. But there's a couple of items of research that I want to just go into in the documents module. Now, we've got the dashboard, which provides great oversight into what's going on in the overall process. But Bruce Bolton's just an approver. And he gets a call from his vendors to say, hey, where's my invoice? Are you guys going to pay it? So he needs to review the status of an invoice a different way. He doesn't get the dashboard, but he's got an invoice number. So if we log in as Bruce and we go to the documents module now I can search by any one of those values that were extracted. I'm just going to hit search because we only had 3 in our batch in the system. As you can see, 2 of the documents are already going to on workflow. One's probably with Fred at the moment. We left that in the inbox. One was this one we processed because Bruce approved it, and then Marlene Roberts also approved it for payment. Now, this is the problem. Invoice number 586, and I'm just going to go back to the search, and I'm going to show you how you can search specifically for that invoice because the vendor's called in. There it is. And if I go into the workflow, I can see that it's stuck on Marlene Roberts. The invoice has been rejected. So I can actually then go and give Marlene a call and find out why she hasn't processed that, whether she's called the vendor back. So the system, even if you're using the document management module, tells you what you can see the status of the workflow, and that's the advantage of everything being in one system. There's no separate capture system or workflow system or repository. It is just one system. And if I go and look at the history of that particular document, then it shows me when it came in, the fact that created the document, went through processing, and it was rejected. So you get a complete audit trail of everything that's going on in the system itself. Thanks for watching the demo. You can go to our YouTube channel to check out more videos or contact our sales department. Some other resources there as well. And there's also the DocuNECT manuals in our Knowledge Center as well, accessible from the DocuNECT website. Thanks very much.